Today on the Waine Train, we are halfway through our second season in the Premier League and we're heading into December inside the top four. Can we stay there as we take on Brentford and Manchester United before we hit Christmas? Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 25 of the Waine Train with Plymouth Argyle here on Sean Does FM. I hope you're doing well and coming up today. We play two games in the month of December. First up, we take on a Brentford team who are just outside of a European qualifying spot. Hopefully we can beat them and put a little bit of a gap on those teams that are chasing us. And then off the back of taking on Southampton and also a break that we have for some reason, not for internationals, but we will then take on Manchester United. All of those games are at our home ground for this season in Ashton Gate. So if you're looking forward to that coming up in today's episode, as well as an update on another sale prior to the opening of the transfer window, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated, but we've played a couple of games off the back of yesterday's episode where we took on Manchester City in the league and then Tottenham Hotspur in the Carabao Cup. If you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. Our form since then has actually been pretty good, thankfully, off the back of that slightly botley defeat that we did have against Spurs in the Carabao Cup. And it started off as we took on a Leicester team that we did beat back in the third round of that competition. In this game, we did concede just before halftime, but thankfully off the back of a bit of a rev up at halftime, we did get back on track, and despite the fact that based on stats, we were definitely the second best team in this game, we grabbed a goal back early in the second half through Nikola Iliev, who did come off the bench, and to seal things, it was Simon Som off a ball from John Buckley, who put things away and made sure that we picked up 3 points there against the Leicester team, who are struggling in their first season back up in the Premier League. So thankfully, that was a good start. And then off the back of that, we took on another team that had been struggling in Crystal Palace. And I think we need to show you guys the highlights from this one because words won't do it justice. We got absolutely torn to shreds here by the home team in the first half, and in particular the striker in Rodriguez, actually a player we were debating signing between him and Pizarro. It was looking like here in the first half we should have signed this guy in Rodriguez. He picks up a hat-trick and gives Crystal Palace what you would have thought was an unassailable 3-0 lead heading into half-time, but then a couple of changes in the second half and also late in the first because Ben Waine started this game and got injured again, but off the back of a rev up, it took a little while into the second half to grab a goal back, but thankfully good Johnson, he puts one away, and from there, we really turn on the style here at Selhurst Park. Only a few minutes later, a far post corner, which Dean Henderson doesn't quite get to. Pizarro puts that one away, and only a few minutes later, we equalise things in this game with still 25 minutes left. So Rawi, who's had a brilliant month in November, somehow didn't quite pick up the player of the month despite the fact he had 9 goal contributions. He sets that one up to make it 3-3, and then yet again, he is a big influence as he beats Henderson there despite the fact he gets a good touch on that one to put us in front, which was a big surprise. And then late on, we seal the game. So Rawi yet again, he is on the ball, squares that one for Pizarro, who picks up a double, and we come back from 3-0 down at halftime to pick up a 5-3 win. That was definitely a lot closer than it should have been based on table position, but thankfully really kicked into gear off the back of that rev up at halftime, and we pick up a 5-3 win in an absolute classic based on stats. Definitely a game that we should have been winning. The only downside is that Ben Waine, he did pick up an injury, which he is only just starting to come back from. So unfortunately, he might not be starting in either of the games in today's episode. Unfortunately, the Waine Train just a little bit injury prone so far in this third season of the save, but off the back of that, some tougher assignments. First up, we took on Arsenal and actually played pretty well in this game. Had a goal ruled out early for a good Johnson, but then with about 10 minutes left in the first half, Sarawi yet again was on the attack, fizzes this one into the mixer somehow. That Arsenal goalkeeper doesn't quite get down to it, and Morgan Whittaker puts that one away, but then just early into the second half, Bukayo Saka here with a piece of individual brilliance to beat Luis Jr., and it finishes 1-1 there at Ashton Gate. At the moment, having quite a few home games in the Premier League based on stats, a game that we probably deserve to win, but I think we'll take a draw against a team as good as Arsenal. Off the back of that, a potentially trickier game as we went away to take on Newcastle at St James's Park. And this one friend to go quite similarly to that game that we did play against Crystal Palace this time because of Joel Linton. This goal, a very messy one to concede, just floats that one to the mixer and McGinn puts that one away. Interesting to see some of the players who are on this Newcastle United team. Thankfully this time we equalised quite shortly off the back of that. Pizarro with a bit of help from the inside of the post makes it 1-1, but unfortunately Joel Linton then makes it 2-1. Some poor play out from the back there. Jacob Graves trying to find Bischoff. Not a good idea. Then gets beaten on the retreat, and Joel Linton does make it 2-1, and that's how it stayed for a fair while. But thankfully, just before halftime, we did grab an equaliser. Simon Som with nice ball over the top there for Nikola Iliev, who puts that one away. Back in the team as Good Johnson's form had just tailed off a little bit in the couple of games prior to this one, and then early in the second half, Morgan Whittaker takes on a shot there from a tight angle and puts that one away, and thankfully not much happened off the back of that in terms of goal scoring, and we pick up a 3-2 win at St James's Park. As you can see, yet again, the more dominant team based on stats, but we can be a little bit leaky early on in games. Hopefully that won't be a theme that continues, but thankfully we are just doing enough to get the job done. So since you were last here, 3 wins and 1 draw, so that does leave us in third on the Premier League table and pretty safely at the moment inside of that top 4. Manchester United played the same amount of games as us and are 4 points behind us as long as we can do the job against Brentford, and they'd also have to do a decent job as they take on Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. But a good chance for us in these next couple of games before we take Manchester United on to try and firmly establish ourselves inside that top 4 before we do hit Christmas. So things are going quite well for us here in the Premier League at Plymouth Argyle. The only issue is that injury to the Waine Train, which he has just come back from, pulled ankle ligaments, but it does mean he is only recommended for 45 minutes. Simon Som also picked up an injury recently, but thankfully he can handle a little bit more football. But we have done one more transfer heading in to the January transfer window, albeit it is one that you probably expected to see because he's not likely to get his ESC extended into a work permit. Liberato Kakache, the fellow New Zealander that we did sign in January of last year, he has been sold to Pisa over in Italy, so he's on his way back to there, and that will be for around about £3 million. Not quite all of that up front, but there is a few installments, which does mean we actually make a slight profit on that transfer after we did sign him for £1.5 million just 1 year ago. He's only played one competitive game for the club in the league, but has featured a bit more in cup competitions, but unfortunately just not quite getting the game time to get that ESC extended, which is a bit disappointing considering he plays quite regularly for the New Zealand national team. But unfortunately, because their ranking is not high enough, that doesn't really help him out in terms of getting a work permit. Of course, we did sign Wilson Esbrand going into the start of the season on loan because we did think that Libby might be in a bit of trouble. So unfortunately, Libby Kakache won't be here when we do come back for the first episode at the start of next week, but unfortunately just didn't quite get enough football into him for that to be the case. It does mean our transfer budget now is a pretty good one of £16.4 million, and also you'll notice that wage budget has been topped up because the board quite happy with how we are doing, so I've given us some extra funds to help invest in the squad if we feel like that's something that we need to do. Also, with those sales coming out, we will get an extra 45k on that wage budget as well, so it does mean quite a bit of money that we could use in the January transfer window, albeit at the moment our squad is doing a pretty good job, and hopefully that will continue in this first game of today's episode where we take on Brentford, who, as you will see shortly, just outside of one of those European qualifying spots. As I said earlier, hopefully we can win this one and might be able to put a gap of around about 10 points on those teams who aren't in a European spot. That would be quite nice going into the second half of the season. Hopefully that's something we can do, and also pick up a win against Southampton before we come back for a potentially tricky game against Manchester United. Just one change to our usual best 11 going to this game. Of course, these days, Serginho Dest is being picked above Kane Kesler-Hayden, but obviously with Ben Waine only recommended for 45 minutes, it does mean Pizarro will start up front alongside Nikola Iliev. These days you can see good link up down that left-hand side between Miguel Gutierrez and Osami Salawi, so that's good. Both of those players have picked up their form of late, especially Salawi. I thought was really harsh that he didn't pick up the November Player of the Month, as I said, with around about 9 goal contributions and an average rating in the 8s. Somehow it went to some player from a big club with only 3 goal contributions and an average rating of 7.2. So that did seem a little bit dodgy, a little bit of big club bias there in the Player of the Month. Maybe because of those EAFC cards that they give out. Maybe that's translated into the game. But there was our team before there, Brentford. They are going with a 4-3-3, and to be fair, not in that good of form. They were actually doing quite well when we finished things off in yesterday's episode. Off the back of that, they have just slipped down the table a little bit. Hopefully we can make the most of that and pick up a win. Also, they are missing a couple of players on AFCON duty as well. That might be something that is influencing their current run of form, but hopefully with this one being Ashton Gate, as are all 3 games during the course of today's episode, we can pick up a win. Early throw in there for Brentford, but thankfully we deal with that danger, and Jacob Graves can play that one back to our goalkeeper, and Louis Jr. also done to really establish himself as quite a good goalkeeper here now in the Premier League, but we knock it about. Poor pass there from Bishov. There might be a chance here for Brentford to do something early in this game. Sushik plays that one back to Aya. Now Rosler on the ball down that right-hand side. We put good pressure on them, but they do quite well here to keep the ball, and they now find Wissa in some space down that left-hand side. Does take on a shot, but thankfully Louis Jr. with a decent save. Not too sure if that one would have found the top right corner, but thankfully we didn't find out, albeit still danger here from a corner, albeit that's an awful one. And Simon Som here might actually get a chance to do something on the counter-attack, albeit his legs are not the quickest in this team, albeit he finds Salawi. Not a bad option there, trying to put that one far post for Whittaker, but unfortunately a little bit too much on it. But starting to show now a little bit of danger on the counter-attack. Hopefully off the back of that early scare, we can start to get on the front foot, albeit stats-wise. You could argue we are already on top in this game. That was the only chance that Brentford have created in the entire match so far, while we've had 5, albeit only 2 on target. So it does look like we're the team here who are playing the better football. Everyone out there on a decent enough rating, apart from Serginho Dest. That might be something we look to change at halftime if this is still locked up at 0-0. Chelsea being Manchester United as well, that might be quite useful, as that might keep that gap on those teams who are currently outside of Europe. But Gutierrez plays that one back to Bishop. Unfortunately, poor pass from him as well. Can't quite find Som, but then good work there from Graves to win that ball back for us. Now Gutierrez to Suawi. Some good nice passing here on the edge of the box. We try and put that one far post for Iliev or Whittaker, but unfortunately can't quite link up in the Brentford defence. Do deal with that at the far post, and they might get a chance here to do something on the counter-attack just before half-time, albeit our pressing of late has been a lot better. Just being able to put a bit more pressure on the opposition inside of their half, albeit Brentford here deal with the danger quite well, but that is a very good tackle eventually from Gutierrez. Now Starman of late, and Salawi makes his way down that left-hand side, floats that one far post for Damian Pizarro, only starting, of course, because the Waine Train can't handle 90 minutes, and he'll put that one away. I'm pretty sure he was onside. That one looked pretty clear-cut. Don't even need to wait for VAR. The goal has already been awarded to Salawi with yet another assist. He must be getting close to double figures, if not already there. And Pizarro, good header there across the face of goal. That beats David Raya. He makes it 1-0 just before halftime. As you can see, didn't really need the VAR check there, but thankfully, looks like we'll go into the sheds with a 1-0 lead. So because of that, I think we're just going to leave things as they are going into that second half. Serginho Dest is on a 6.5, but the way we're playing, don't want to change too much, especially as we're keeping a clean sheet in the first half, something which we haven't done in a little while. Still can be a bit leaky in terms of the goals that we concede with this high defensive line, but thankfully doesn't feel like it's as troubling as it was when we were going with that standard line an episode or 2 ago. But early stages of the second half, Brentford here are on the attack. Nice ball in there from Ivan Toney for Sushik, but thankfully a bit of a weak shot there, and Louis Jr. he can make a save as Chelsea go 3-0 up over Manchester United. We pick up a yellow card from Miguel Gutierrez, who, to be fair, has played quite well today, but will play things safe. Ethan Laird can come on for him, but thankfully still up 1-0, and shortly off the back of that sub, there is a throw in our favour. Now Sushik is down there on the sideline, so I imagine that's the reason we gave that ball straight back to Brentford, as they now look to play into our half. Higher plays that forward to Norgard, and they now try and spread it down that left-hand side, but good work there from Laird, and we can get on the ball, hopefully. Might be able to make the most here of Brentford being down to 10 men temporarily, potentially still, and Bischoff, he is on the ball, floats that one far post for Morgan Whittaker. Just keep that one down that right-hand side, plays it back to Dest. Now Bischoff just outside the box, nice ball in there for Sarawi, but that one's just off target, looking for a goal to go alongside his assist. It is still 1-0 as we make our way now into the last half hour. And with this game being the second of 3 in a week-long block, it does mean quite a few of our players now are down to red hearts. We're going to make all our remaining subs at this time. We'll bring on Helsner at right back, Buckley in the deep line playmaker role, Ben Waine for the goal scorer, and Damien Pizarro, and also Tony Springer outright for Morgan Whitaker. So that's all our subs used with just under a half hour left. Hopefully the Waine Train here can get through a decent chunk of football and might be available for our next couple of games, especially off the back of a 2-week break after Southampton, before we come back on camera and take on Manchester United. We have a corner there, but unfortunately a bit too much on that one, and David Raya can come out and claim it. Takes his time here on the ball. Hopefully we can find a way to grab a cushion goal. Otherwise, there is a chance here that Brentford could take something from a game that it feels like we've been on the front foot in for most of proceedings, but they do keep the ball here, and they do find Ivan Toney, albeit a good tackle there from Buckley, but unfortunately the ball spills out there to Brentford, and they do find themselves in a bit of space. Jensen just on the edge of the box now. He gets forced to, plays that one across to Norgard. Henry chests it back down for him. Good option there, but thankfully that shot is just off target as they do make a couple of subs. And we make our way now into the last 15 minutes, still with that 1-0 lead. As I said, hopefully we can find a way here to put this game to bed, albeit with only 10 minutes left. It's now time for us, I think, to start time wasting just a little bit. Also, we'll pass a little bit shorter, so hopefully there's less chance that the opposition do get on the ball. And we're now inside the last 5 minutes of this game, still holding on to that 1-0 lead. Definitely should have scored a second goal in this game, but so far that has not been the case as we make our way into 5 minutes of added time. And it looks like this one might finish at 1-0, albeit there is a free kick here in our favour. Hopefully we play it smart and can just hold on to the ball. Ethan Laird starts to make his way forward down that left-hand side. Nice pass there to Iliev. Tried to thread a needle there to the Waine Train. It's probably not a great idea, but thankfully Sebastian Helsner, some good work there to get that ball back for us now. Waino inside the box. What can he do on the edge? Oh, he plays that one back to Simon Som. The Waine Train will pick up an assist. It's not quite a goal, but it will do in his first game for a little while, and that will eventually seal it. It's taken a lot longer than it probably should have, but we make it 2-0 just before full time, and that will be 3 points to hopefully firmly establish ourselves inside of that top four. The Waine Train there with some good hold-up play, and then find Simon Som inside the box. Good finish there from a tight angle. Another player who we probably actually should have taken off earlier with his minute limitation that we were given before the start of that game, but thankfully he's got through it and picked up a late goal, and we pick up a nice 2-0 win there over Brentford, which should see us, as I said, firmly established inside the top four before we come back for that Manchester United game, provided we get the job done over Southampton. We'll come back shortly and show you guys highlights from that one. So a good first result in today's episode, and thankfully it didn't change too much. A couple of days later, we were able to put out a pretty similar team when we did take on Southampton. Nice ball in there from Salawi yet again, and Morgan Whitaker gets his heel on the end of that one to beat Bazunu, and we take an early 1-0 lead. Unfortunately, off the back of that, Southampton had a pretty good run of play, and off the back of a Shea Adams header that comes off the post, Luis Jr. tries to save it. Not a good idea. Adam Armstrong puts that away into an open net. They make it 1-1, but thankfully, right off the back of that, we have a throw-in and find Bischoff, who finds the bottom right corner to make it 2-1. And then about 10 minutes before halftime, we seal this game. Lovely bit of play there from that throw-in, and Sarawi this time puts the ball in the back of net. All the action in that game did happen inside the first half, apart from a late goal scored by Iliev, which did get ruled out for offside, and we pick up a 3-1 win. The Waine Train did get some action late in this game, but unfortunately nothing of note from him, picking up a 6.6, but it was a comfortable 3-1 win in the end, so that was good, and it does mean going into this big second game of today's episode, we find ourselves still in third on the table. Decent gap back to those teams not in Europe, albeit somehow they've now played 2 to 3 more games than we have, despite the fact we just had a week off for no apparent reason. So not too sure why we had that week off. What we did in that week was give some of our fringe players some game time against the local team, and we bet them 20-0. The Waine Train only picking up the 1 goal, which is potentially slightly concerning, but hopefully he will do a decent job starting up front in this one. But harsh on Damien Pizarro, who came off the bench and scored 4 goals, but the series is called the Waine Train. Let's see what he can do against Manchester United. This is our 3rd straight home game in the Premier League Hopefully we can do a decent job and pick up a point here against the Red Devils, who are just outside of a Champions League qualifying spot, albeit we do go into this game with a couple of suspensions. And also, before we get into that, we've also picked up a new contract here at Plymouth Argyle, these days going through to the end of 2029, and our wages being bumped up quite significantly as well to £25,000 a week. But as I said, a couple of suspensions that we do have to deal with going into the second game of today's episode, which is not ideal, and those come at left back and in the ball wing midfield role, so it does mean that both Miguel Gutierrez and Simon Som are missing for this one, so it does mean that Joel McCoy and Callum Wright make their way onto the bench. That second one actually, because Facundo Farias picked up an injury in that 20-0 win, but it does mean alongside the Waine Train coming in for Pizarro, we've got Wilson Esbrand at left back. Of course, he's going to be at the club a little bit longer than Libby, which is why he gets the start. Also, he's better attribute-wise, and Adam Randall, he comes in for Simon Som. So unfortunately, not quite able to put out a full strength 11 for this game. Arguably, these days, you could actually say that maybe Pizarro on current form should be there over the Waine Train. I know it's almost blasphemous, but Waino has been struggling this season with injuries, hasn't got too much game time. Hopefully, he can do a decent job here against the big team in Manchester United. To be fair, they come into this one in a decent run of form, albeit they get smacked by Chelsea in that game that we did play first up in today's episode while we were beating Brentford. They got hammered, which is why they are behind them off the back of that one at Stamford Bridge. But hopefully we can keep up a good run of form we've had so far this season at Ashton Gate and do a decent job here against one of the bigger teams in England. Their squad does look pretty strong. Lots of names there that are there currently in real life as well. An interesting one, Kieran Tierney at left back, but otherwise it does look like a pretty similar outfit to what they have in real life, and so far pretty even game inside of the first 20 minutes. Now Jacob Graves picks up a slight knock there, nothing too serious, and that heart has just gone up a little bit, so I think we'll try and leave him out there for the remainder of the first half. But the first highlight is a throw into Man United, and Dallo there absolutely does Bischoff from a tight angle. Thankfully, Luis Jr. does come up with a good save. Interesting to also see Marcus Rashford has picked up an orange injury, so that might be something that does work out in our favour. But so far, that was the only thing that had happened in the first half. But shortly off the back of that, there is another highlight here, and Man United do keep the ball. Good work there, I thought, from Wilson Esbrand, but unfortunately doesn't quite win it. Now Marcus Rashford on that orange injury, he finds Dallo. Long way outside the box, he takes a shot, and it finds its way into the bottom right corner. To be fair, I think one of his teammates there was running a bit of interference on a defender, but still, Luis Jr. there potentially should be doing a little bit better, but fair play to Diego Dallo, not a player you expect of a shot from that far out, and it just sneaks its way inside that near post, and Manchester United, they go up 1-0 here just prior to the 30-minute mark. Hopefully, we can find a way to turn this around. It's been a long time since we haven't scored a goal in a game, so you'd like to think that will be the case, albeit also been a little while since Ben Waine has started a game in the Premier League. But unfortunately, so far Manchester United have been on the front foot off the back with an encouraging start based on that match momentum. But we are 1-0 down going into the second half. What we'll do here is take off Iliev on that 6.3. Orgood Johnson also might be smart here to take off Jacob Graves, having picked up a bit of a niggle, apparently, injury. So coming on for him will be Sebastian Helsner, and hopefully that will help us grab an equaliser at least in the second half of this one. A couple of players out there on the wings as well, not on great ratings. We'll see if they improve going up to the hour mark of this game. And there is now a corner here in our favour. Bischoff floats this one into the mixer. It falls to Waino in a ton of space, but unfortunately, Andre Onana, that's his name, just tips that one over the bar. A chance there for the Waine Train to grab an equaliser, but unfortunately the goalkeeper does stop that one. Now Williams tried to get on the end of that header, did the second time of asking, but took on a shot that was never going to trouble the goalkeeper, and now up to the hour mark. Unfortunately, Waino not doing too well, so Pizarro will come on for him, and also Sarawi actually struggling, which is a bit strange. He's been in quite good form for us recently. Callum Wright can come on for him, probably his last appearance in a Plymouth Argyle shirt before he goes off to Saudi Arabia. But we are still 1-0 down here, about to make our way into the last 20 minutes. And our last sub will take off Tom Bischoff on a red card for John Buckley. Morgan Whittaker probably lucky that Bischoff did go down to that red card. Otherwise, Springett would probably be coming on for him. But we're making our way now into the last 15 minutes of this game so far. To be fair, not a lot's happened in this one, and now Serginho Dest, he picks up a knock, but unfortunately we've used all our subs, and we're now going to need him to go a bit more positive in his role with 10 minutes left. We'll tell those wingbacks to go into attack, and also we'll make sure that Adam Randall is on support. Also Pizarro, he will be on attack, and we'll tell our guys to go a bit wider and be more expressive as well. Hopefully that might just help us do something late in this game, but unfortunately so far doesn't look like that's going to be the case. So as we're about to make our way into added time, I think we'll lower the passing directness and also tell our goalkeeper to distribute quickly, and also to the fullbacks, just see if that gets us going forward a little bit quicker as we make our way into 4 minutes of added time. But unfortunately this game has been pretty quiet. Only a couple of highlights in both halves. Our big chance came through the Waine Train from a corner, but unfortunately Andre Onana with a decent save, and Diego Dallo's long range effort in the first half does prove the difference maker. We suffer our first defeat, I believe that is in 10 games in the Premier League, and that will make things interesting on the league table. That's our first defeat, as I said, in quite a while, and unfortunately it comes against Manchester United of all teams. It's a 1-0 defeat, and I think that also means that every game that the Waine Train started, we haven't won so far this season, so that's not ideal. But unfortunately off the back of that, we dropped down to 4th after that 1-0 defeat to the Red Devils. So unfortunately a little bit of a sour note to end today's episode, our first loss in 10 games. As you can see, prior to that, we have been on a pretty good run, mostly wins with a couple of draws thrown in there against Aston Villa and Arsenal, but hopefully we can get on a similar run off the back of this, albeit coming up in early January, we do take on some pretty good teams in the likes of Manchester City. Also worth noting, injuries to Serginho Dest and to Jacob Graves, but thankfully nothing too serious. They should be fine for our next game, which does look very winnable, even though it is away at Nottingham Forest. And also, Ben Waine in a goal drought. That's now 8 matches without finding net competitively. That's not ideal. To be fair, his average rating of late hasn't actually been that bad. A 7.36 in his last 5 games and a 6.72 overall. But we just don't seem to win quite as much when he's playing compared to Damian Pizarro, so that is a bit concerning when we do need to start him in this series. Hopefully he picks up his form soon, and that will be hopefully in our next game when we do take on Nottingham Forest. But that will do it for today's episode. Good wins over Brentford and Southampton before that loss to Manchester City. If you enjoyed today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. We'll come back at the start of next week, I think fairly early in January. As you can see at the moment, just clinging on to a top 4 spot. Chelsea just behind us because of goal differential, but we'll come back I think in early January. As I said, 2 quite winnable games away from home in between now and then to end December, albeit that was the time last year when our form went to absolute dog poo because of goalkeeping injuries. Hopefully that doesn't happen this time around, but we'll come back in early January and play those first couple of games in the Premier League. We take on Man City, that one at home off the back of us grabbing a draw against them away early this season. We'll take on Tranmere off camera in that 3rd round of the FA Cup, as that does look like a good chance for us to put out a rotated team, and then we'll take on Tottenham. Hopefully can get some revenge after they knocked us out of the Carabao Cup in yesterday's episode. So we'll come back at the start of next week and play those 2 games. And also we have quite a bit of money that we could spend in the transfer window. We'll see if we've made any plans to get rid of that. So until then, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.